Hey, brothers. I hope that you are doing well and that your week has started amazing. We had a great meeting yesterday morning. In case you missed it, here is a quick recap of what we covered. We came together and went through our recap questions every week that we go through. Then we went into our leadership devotion for Exodus, from Exodus 18, verse 1, then verses 13 through 26. After that, we watched a short video clip. The purpose of the devotional was to show that we need to be relying upon each other and not just the leader of the group. I talked very briefly about how in teaching circles or in classrooms, the focus is always on the teacher. He has all the answers. He's the one that you go to for everything. But in a discipleship group, in the context of community, where we're not just learning, we're living what God wants us to do, we need to focus on each other. Then I shared a very brief story of an example of what it looks like for brothers to come together. And it was last week, I had one of the brothers in our group come up and he was struggling with something. He wanted to meet with me. But then I received a phone call from him, which he said he met with someone else and they worked through it, and now he was ready to move ahead. When I heard it, I was grinning from ear to ear. He didn't need to talk to me. He needed to talk to another brother. As we're going through this journey, understand the greatest resources around you are not me, but rather your units and your brothers. Keep leaning in to those guys as we continue to move ahead. After that, we went over our commitment. We added one thing. In our commitment, we talked about authenticity, bravery, confidentiality, and again, don't fix your brothers. Then we added an E, which is encourage your brothers. What I mentioned was, as people text in your units, I know right away I was like, hey, you don't need people to respond, just respond. The reason I shared that was before, when we would do this, we would get guys that would send a text message, but then there'd be 15 follow-up texts and the original message would get buried. What I encourage guys to do is if somebody in your unit texts something, let's have at least one, if not two guys respond in a meaningful way to that text, but we don't need everybody to respond to it, but a couple guys responding would be beneficial as we're trying to build our community together. And it doesn't always have to be the same guy. Let's all lean in and encourage each other as we're going on this journey. That was one thing that we added. Then our topic, we looked at our routine. We took an honest look at what we've been doing with the time that God has been given to us. The first thing we looked at was actually screens. We talked about how screens are doors. What they open to is what matters. Every screen that you interact with opens a door to someone, somewhere, or something. Make sure it's opening you to Jesus or to what he has for you. We also discussed how in our homes, we need to be responsible for the screens in our homes and not just let our kids have open doors into things that they're maybe not ready for that could actually hinder them. And so we had a great conversation about screens, since the average man, if I remember the stat right, is on his phone, not phone calls, but on his phone or on a screen. I think it was 4.5 hours a day. That's an average guy. We all interact with screens. My prayer is that as we interact, they bring us closer to Jesus in practical ways. Then we talked about our days. There were some great insights of guys, aha moments of what they discovered as they tracked their time. Some guys made some adjustments already that they said, I want to change the way I start my day. Others guys had some revelations about what happened throughout their day. It was a great discussion of guys encouraging each other and being authentic and vulnerable about where their schedule is at. I was really proud of the whole group. Great job, guys. If you were part of that, thank you for your transparency and your vulnerability. Mentioned a couple resources at the end that can help manage your time. And then finally, for our preparation for next week is priorities. And the questions for preparation for next week is, number one, what is a priority? You get to define that however you want. Number two, write down specifically and rank your top 10 priorities. Number three, do your priorities align with your routine? Number four, what needs to stay the same in your routine? Because there's some good things that you are doing that need to stay. Don't get rid of it all. And then fifth, what needs to change in your routine? Those are the 5 questions again. What is a priority? Write down specifically your top 10 priorities and rank them. Do your priorities align with your routines? Is there an alignment with what you say you value and what you're doing with your life? And then what needs to stay the same in your routine? And ultimately, what needs to change? We discussed those questions, and then after that, we prayed and encouraged the guys to meet to discuss one thing that maybe needed to change in their routine, and then we closed up. One other thing I wanted to highlight before we finished off the video was I mentioned how it's important as men that we are walking together. And I told everybody very clearly, I believe in you, I respect you, and I am thankful for you. Guys, as we are walking together, I can't share with you enough of what it means to me to have the opportunity to walk with all of you through this journey. I pray that you're finding the strength and encouragement that you need in order to keep progressing ahead. The last thing I mentioned was how with some of the activation homework that we were doing in preparation for the next week, that's going to be backing off a little bit. We started off strong coming out of the gates. We really wanted to get practical and get down to it. Now we're going to be backing that off a little bit. My prayer is that during that time you were leaning into each other, saying, okay, help me do this. How do we figure this out? Next Sunday, we're back on at 8 a.m. at the same place. Bring your preparation homework done and complete, and we're going to look at the second step of our routine, which is aligning what we do every single day with our priorities and taking an honest look at those things. So, guys, I hope you're doing great. I pray that you're enjoying the Christmas season. If you need anything, please reach out to your units. If you need anything specifically from me, feel free to reach out to me. I'll continue to be sending out the text messages about my personal discipleship journey. But man, guys, love you. I respect you. Can't wait to see you again. We'll talk to you soon.